And the answer to that question is because they can. Because the districts are gerrymandered, and they could run Mickey Mouse and win, and we don't fire them. That's why your taxes are so high. Because if they raised your taxes knowing they would get fired, they wouldn't do it. So, that's it. They've gamed the system. I made some notes because I received an email, here's what we'd like to hear from you. So I said, okay, so I've got some notes from you. A little bit of background that's very important. I met my husband on a blind date when I was 17. And he was 20. There's my pages. That's okay. I wanted to be a reporter. He wanted to be a doctor. I got a job at Channel 7 with Ulrich and Tom. That was great. He went to medical school. We were in the first generation of kids that all had college as a possibility. You could get student loans and go. My parents were the generation where the women either became teachers or secretaries, or they got married and had families. And they worked hard. They went to church on Sundays. In our family, money was very tight, always. And if we went to Florida, we drove there and we gave up all of our Christmas presents. It was a vote. So we didn't have a lot growing up. I also had a little brother born during the rubella epidemic, and he is deaf. And due to my mother's sheer grit and determination, he is an attorney, and he speaks. Never learned sign language. Remarkable, remarkable story. First child mainstreamed in Williamsville, and she did that. We thought, my husband and I, that if we worked hard, we raised good children, raised patriots, went to church on Sunday, loved God, and paid our taxes, that we were doing what we were supposed to do as American citizens. And because we had inherited a great society to grow up in. And right up until about Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky's dress. And we had a bunch of middle schoolers. So by the time I had my 5th child, we had 4 children that were 5 and under, 3 in diapers. So they're all in middle school around the same time. And I kept thinking, my gosh, I know what's going on at school, what they're all talking about. We have got to talk about all this at the dinner table. And boy, we did. I got the newspaper. Let's see what's going on today. And we talked about STDs, I mean everything. We talked about everything I could think of. Because I knew then I was going to have to send them out into a swamp of a society. And whatever I could do while I still had them to warn them of that and prepare them of that, I had to do. One day we were watching television. This isn't in here, but I have to tell it because it was so funny. One day we're watching television and the girl's riding a bike, and I was diagnosed with an STD, and because of such and such, I don't have to worry anymore. Get there about, okay, you guys know what that is? Okay, Megan, you wouldn't even know you had it because you can't see your cervix. Dennis, it would be all over your you-know-what. They grab the pillows. Mom, when you're in a nursing home, no one's going to visit you. You know that, right? So, no, I just want to make sure you know that, okay? So my eulogy will be hilarious. Don't miss it, I'm sure, because they will all be up telling stories. So then 9/11 happened. And I sat there, watched the second plane go in. I knew we were going to war, and I was sitting there with 4 sons. And I knew it wasn't going to be everybody else's kid that went. That there was going to be a possibility if people could do that we might get into another situation where everybody's sons would have to go. And little did I know that I'd have a daughter too. We started hanging up all the pictures of those killed in action from Western New York in our kitchen above the kids' computer, because I wanted them to be grateful. Then when they were a little bit older, a couple years later, I started taking them to all the wakes, where you could see all their pictures of them in Little League and their families and how valued they were in their families, so that they could be grateful. And I said, don't be sad, be grateful that we are a country that still raises people like this, that are that strong for us. And while I was doing all of that with the kids, my husband was working 12 to 14-hour days. He said, do you want me to come? I said, no, do your sonograms. Because he puts in his full day and comes home and reads 40 sonograms and issues reports for 40 sonograms for Kaleida. After 9/11, I told all of my kids, you will all have to do something for your country, period. Do it early in your career. It doesn't have to be the service, but you have to figure out a way that you can serve your country, because it can't be everybody else's kids. So my oldest son graduated with a degree in math and a degree in computer science. He went to work at Fort Meade, and I can tell you now because he's no longer there. He was with the NSA. He worked on the software, he's a software engineer. He worked on the software that the troops were using in Afghanistan. My second son was in Afghanistan with 2nd Radio Battalion. He was actually using that software. It was analytic software so they could find the bad guys. And my son worked in that for 4.5 years. I told him I'd do it for as long as an enlistment would be, 4.5 years, and is now working in the commercial division of Booz Allen. So they were both working in secured skiffs for communication. My Marine got out of the Marine Corps about 5 months ago, did 1 semester at UB because he wanted to get into a great college. He applied to Harvard and Georgetown and all those. He wanted to end up in DC with his oldest brother. Took calculus, chemistry, computer science, and economics. Got a 3.5 GPA. Applied to Georgetown. Waitlisted. Didn't take him. Now what is wrong with America? 5 years in the Marine Corps. Proves that he is classroom ready with difficult courses. Didn't get in. Can't believe it. I can. Okay? Because it's this America in 2014. But that's disgraceful. It really is disgraceful. So let's see. My second daughter, my only daughter, middle child, is a 2nd lieutenant in the Marine Corps. She's not here because she leaves in 2 days for the basic school, start her journey, and she is just got her new sneakers, and she is out running miles and miles and miles to get ready for that. And I have 3 kids at UB. I started out with 5. God sent me an 18-year-old. Who knew? And we kind of adopted him. And so I've got 1 junior and 2 sophomores. And the kid we adopted is going to be playing football this year, so that's very nice. And God keeps providing. So this is the America we grew up in and we inherited from the World War II veterans, from the Korean veterans. My father was the oldest in his family. He served in Korea. His youngest brother served in Vietnam. You think about that. Wow. Same family. And in Vietnam, we saw for the first time real protests. People no longer wanted to listen to what their government said and get drafted. The people like Bob were the remnants of those great guys that said, okay, you don't have to draft me, I'm going to go. I'll volunteer and do my time. We have to restore confidence in our government. We really do. They come out and say, hey, women, you don't need a yearly mammogram. Yeah, right. You don't need yearly pap smears either. Yeah, right. And, they just told my mom she didn't need physicals every year. Now that she's 80, she can go every other year. Really? Oh, okay. We'll believe that. Who believes the unemployment numbers are coming down? Anyone? No. We don't believe in anything that our government is putting out. That's terrible. Janet Yellen, they just had a big Federal Reserve meeting in Wyoming somewhere, and she came out and said, well, we're not going to raise interest rates yet because I don't quite trust the numbers. Wow! Okay, that was fascinating. I read that, I was like, oh my goodness. It was in the Wall Street Journal. That's fascinating. So I think for that reason, we are living in a very dangerous time that we can't trust what our government is telling us, and especially medically now. We need to get the federal government out of our lives. We really do. We need to severely cut agencies. If you go to Washington and look at how big the building is that the Department of Education is, if there was ever a time that a department has proven that they shouldn't be there, it was with the Common Core curriculum. It really is. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. I was at Corpus Christi Lawn Fete in the city, and an Armenian woman said to me, why do Republicans always have to get into talking about abortion and birth control and gay marriage and all of that? Why do we do that? We never talk about the stuff that's going to, that's really the problem and the issues in our country. And I said to her, that's a good question. So, this is my Bible. And I believe it's the whole Word of God. That's me. Okay? Personal beliefs. It's how I live my life. And my favorite little passages all checked off there. But abortion and gay marriage are not congressional issues. They just aren't. You could have 535 people in the Senate and House all vote on something, and if it pertains to those two issues, it fast tracks to the Supreme Court. They decide. We have to stop getting into those discussions, because then we don't discuss the stuff that is going to bring our country down. Our debt and the immigration and all the things that I'm going to talk about tonight. And those are issues that Democrats and Republicans, as Americans, have to be concerned about. We have to bridge together and talk about those issues. I'm going to live my life like this. I've raised my kids like this. Every American has an option to do that or an option not to, which is what makes us so great. So we have to start talking about the other issues that are congressional issues. I don't think the government should be in marriage at all. There shouldn't be tax breaks for marriage. There shouldn't be tax breaks for children, whether you have them, how many you have. Government should not be in marriage, period. The Constitution said we're all created equal. We don't get a break if we're one of those equal people who happen to legally attach ourselves to another person. And that's what we've done. Our government has divided us up into little tax break groups. And then they pit us against each other. So government should be right out of marriage completely. And I truly believe that. So we've taken I'm pro-life, but we can take that off of the congressional table too, of the abortion issue. But I'm going to put it back on for just a minute. Because we live in Obamacare time. And I'm looking at the age of the kids here, so this is okay. And I can tell you that in this time, in the history of our country, with the Obamacare legislation fully implementing 11 days after this upcoming election, you want a pro-life congressman in Washington. Because anyone who thinks, like my opponent does, that it's okay to go in there and grab the little feet of a baby, pull them halfway out, take a scissors, insert it into the neck of the baby and snip the spinal cord, insert a tube into the skull, suck the brains out, and then pull the rest of that baby up. Anyone who thinks that that is okay to do to a baby has lost all ability to discern between right and wrong. And that's the person that's going to decide whether my mom gets care. Or whether the people we know that have a disabled baby who's really expensive. She's expensive. She's in a wheelchair. She gets a little lung infection. She goes to the hospital. She's a very expensive child. And as the system gets squeezed and squeezed and squeezed, we're already seeing it. I have been at over 200 events so far since announcing. I am trying to get everywhere because I don't have money. So I got to go actually meet people. And it's been fantastic. I had people come up to me over and over and over again. They're already rationing care. They're already doing that. One gentleman said, I have an $850 copay to go to the emergency room. And it only lasts for 60 days. If he would have to go again in 63 days, $850 more. So if you get some chest pain, you might just hold off till the next day. It's a lot of money. My husband has patients that need hysterectomies, but they don't have $4,000 or $6,000 for their deductible to go in and have their surgery. And that is what it was designed to do. So it is happening. We're going to end up with something terrible. I have heard from Teamsters who have come up to me and said, so why is my wife no longer part of our family? They took my wife off of my policy. One of the cameramen from one of the television stations, my premium went up $400 a month. My wife and I are both working. I don't know if I'm going to be able to send my daughter back to college. So this is affecting everybody altogether. It really is an equal opportunity destroyer of our healthcare. Okay, so as we are decreasing our health coverage for our elderly, we are ramping up healthcare coverage for the illegal aliens that are streaming across our border. And thinking about sending a team over to one of those countries to screen them ahead of time, declare them refugees, and then bring them here on our planes. Refugees immediately qualify for all welfare and all public services. So, we've mandated birth control, and yet my mom's patch is no longer covered at $40 a month for her hormone replacement. Think about that. That's incredible. Startups throughout the country are down 30%. The young people that have the energy that want to work. And it was an editorial in the Wall Street Journal a few weeks back, a fascinating article. And the country needs so many startups so that by year 4, when half of them fail, and then by year 5 and 6, by year 7, those companies that have picked up steam and are going to go on to become the new hiring companies that are going to be able to hire people, with 30% decrease altogether, is going to be devastating for our kids today that are in college, that are going to be trying to get jobs. I had a girl at the Corporate Challenge come up and say, I've got so many, I just graduated from college, I have so many thousands of dollars in student loans, I won't even be able to buy a house. I said, well, I got to tell you, we had $180,000 in student loans. We rented for a long time. And then we bought a house. And then we were paying $1,000 a month. And when our son turned 18, in that month that he turned 18, we finished paying off our student loans. I said, your student loan debt is not the problem. The problem is that there aren't all the jobs there for you to go get and have a starter job that you might have to live home for a couple of years or rent an apartment for a couple of years. And then the next job is there because there are lots of jobs. And then the next job and the next job, and you're just making your payments. That's the problem. It's not the student loan debt. Because my student loans were at 13.5%. We had $180,000, 13.5%. And those were deals, because the interest rates were 21. So 6%, don't even talk to me, right? It's the job market that's the problem. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute too. The other thing about job starts is that you have to have a lot of experience to start your own company. You're working somewhere. You've gained expertise. And you say, okay, I'm going to go out now and start my own company doing this. People right now, they are hunkering down. They're holding on to what they have. They see the hours being cut, and they are just holding on so they can pay their bills. They're not taking the risk to go out and fail. And we are a country that was built on risk takers. So we have to get that back. We really do. Obamacare has to be dismantled. And the free markets have to return so that only the best companies survive. That's how we get great companies. You can't say you want competition and then say, oh, by the way, we're going to create these exchanges so that you can all compete, but you can only have 4 policies. You can all only have 4 policies. And they have to include this, 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 and this. You should be able to go on those exchanges and say, I only want major medical. I want to pay for all my own stuff, but unless I get hospitalized. You should be able to pick and choose like you do your car insurance. Do you want collision? Do you not want collision? Do you want glass coverage? Do you not want glass coverage? That is not what we have. We also need to get our manufacturing base back. We're employing a lot of people in other countries, and we have to reduce our corporate tax rates. We have an insane corporate tax rate policy, and it is why we have lost so many of our jobs. There were just 2 car companies, European car companies, that signed pacts to build companies over in Canada. One is $1 billion, one is $1.6 billion, and we are their only market. the US, can have shiny new BMWs coming across duty-free because of NAFTA. 2,500 Canadians employed with good jobs, and they should be here. And they would have been here. But our corporate tax rates are almost 40%. And we tax all of the sales in all other countries. So if a company makes, 100% of their goods here and employs us Americans, and 80% of the products stay here and 20% go elsewhere, we tax all of it, even though it's not here. We're the only country that does that. So we have what are called inversions happening. We're going to buy a company in Ireland, and we're going to put our company on the books in Ireland. 12.5%. 12.5%, 39.5%. So what would you do? And we're losing our companies. We have to stop that. Our corporate tax rate, and this should be an American issue, should be 20%. Period. Because when you come here and you take a person off unemployment, it lifts the burden on the people that are still working, because we don't have to pay for welfare if we can move someone off welfare. And we need $10 jobs. We need $12 jobs. We need $15 jobs. We need all the jobs. Because the people that we've been throwing money at for 4 generations now, and telling them, stay home, you have nothing to contribute to America, they have never had a dream. Ever. Because you can't have a dream if there's not a way out of poverty. So we need millions of jobs, all kinds of jobs. Because then we can say, next month, your welfare check is going to be reduced by 20%, but you have 1,000 jobs right at the end of your street. And in 4 months, it's going to be another 20%. But there are 1,000 jobs at the end of your street. And there's no way to do that unless we have thousands of jobs in the community. We have to bring our manufacturing back. We really just do. On the issue of Common Core, it's been funny, running for Congress, because it wasn't on my bucket list. And I tried to talk my family out of running for Congress, and my family talked me into running for Congress. One of the things I said is that, I do all the laundry, right? And I do all the shopping, and I cook all the meals, and I do all of that, right? And I'm sitting there with all my sons. Daughter wasn't home yet. And I said, and if I run, I'm not doing any of that. You know that, right? I'm going to be too busy. Oh, we're going to step it up, Mom. Yeah, don't worry. You go ahead. We're just going to step it up. We're going to be fine. Okay, honey, you're going to be reading sonograms at Mighty Taco every night, right? Oh, it's okay, it's okay. Well, it's playing out a little harsher than everyone can imagine. And Mondays I do laundry all day. So, just to keep everything going. On the issue of Common Core, I have met many, many people. I'm going to tell you 4 stories that are very indicative. I have watched hours and hours of tutorials. I've gone on the NewYorkState.gov website and looked at their tutorials, which are, if they put them on, it's only up until 5th grade, and it's horrific. And I'm just going to relate 4 stories. I also went to the Glenn Beck event, and the effort that is being put up is nothing less than what we need to. One thing that puzzles me is why we don't have an equally loud voice in Congress. We're letting the states battle it out, but it's coming from Washington. And there should be a loud voice from every single congressman about how devastating the curriculum of Common Core will be to our kids. So 4 stories. And I know you're homeschoolers, but guess what? Your kids are going to have to work with idiots. Your kids are going to have to work with kids who don't know math and don't know the founding principles of our country. And that's going to be horrible for them. Let me tell you what they're going to face when they get to college. My youngest adopted kid comes from New York City, went to Catholic schools in New York City. He showed me his 2 papers, his research paper. I said, first of all, that's not a research topic. The teacher approved that topic? All right, I'm not going to say anything else, but my kids always had to run their papers by me because I was a grammar person, right? And I would tell them, that's not right, I marked it up, go do better, right? And that's how I went. I said, from now on, no papers are handed in until you see me. So I looked at the second paper. All the grammar was fixed. He had gone to talk to a professor, and the professor had helped him fix everything. And the second paper was marked worse. One was a C, one was a C minus. And I said, we're going to go and talk to your professors. We go and we talk, his professor's there, and the chairman of the composition department's there, right? We're sitting down. I said, could you please tell me how you get your grades in your school? Oh my gosh. There were like 14 categories. One was you had to post a blog by 10:10 p.m. on the second Thursday of every month. The other one, it went on and on and on. I said, wow, okay, I would fail that class. I'm good at English. And I said, could you just tell me why, all the grammar was fixed on this second paper. It reads so much better. He obviously did a lot of work on it. He said, oh, we don't look at grammar or mechanics or anything like that. I said, this is freshman English. What do you mean you don't look at any of that? As long as the children as long as they keep exposing themselves to language, they'll pick it up. So what is this think system with Harold Hill? I said, that's not true. He's going to write his first memo in 3 years, and they're going to say, oh, he's an idiot. And then he won't get promoted. That's just terrible. So the meeting was over. If that's what you get, why have any further discussion? At least I'm not paying through the nose for it. Right? Canisius, it's like $13,600 per semester. You get the same thing, except they make you feel bad about the color of your skin if you're white. And I met with them about that too, because my son didn't have a choice of how he looks. Anyway, minimally I'll be a little entertaining in Congress, won't I? An engineer came up to me at one of the events. He had been volunteering in the schools, 8th grade, Buffalo schools, for 10 years. He said they were giving the end-of-year math test. The teacher had to sit at the front of the class. They weren't allowed to see the exam. There were 16 questions. I would not have been able to finish the questions in the time that was allotted to the kids, and I'm an engineer. He said none of them finished. Half of them were despondent. 4 of them completely gave up 15 minutes in. Knew they couldn't finish it, why try? 2 of the kids continued to work until the end of the time and still didn't finish. That's devastating. That no matter who you are in the class, nobody can be successful. You'll always have one kid that kills the curve, but at least you're able to finish the test. Nobody finished the test. That's terrible. I was speaking over at UB Republicans, and I went around the table. I said, I want to hear from you before I talk about anything. Let's just talk about the issues that are important to you. One girl said, I went home at Christmas time. I have a 4th grader brother, and he has always loved school. He's always just a real happy kid, does well in school. And she said, my brother has completely changed. He is sad, he hates school, he's getting C's and D's, he always got A's, always studied, always did his homework. She said he asked my mother for a clipboard because he was going to start a petition in school to end Common Core. 4th grade. And that's no way to teach kids. The last one was a math teacher out at, I was out at the Timon St. Jude Lawn Fete, and she was a math teacher in the city of Buffalo. She said, this is the last year that we had the kids separated out, regular algebra and Common Core algebra. And she said, I said, well, how did you determine who was going to go where? She said, we tested them over the summer. And I said, what did you put the smartest kids in regular algebra? Thinking the smartest kids could probably catch up quicker, right? She said, no, we put them in Common Core. I said, how did they do on their tests? 22% pass rates. The smartest kids. I said, so what you're telling me is the smartest kids in math missed a whole year of math this year. She said, absolutely. Absolutely. So, that is who your kids are going to have to be dealing with. Idiots that don't know math because of all of this convoluted way they are now teaching math. And the math kids are the engineering, scientists, biologists. It all starts with math. It starts with doing difficult things for hours on end. So you sit and don't get discouraged and you keep working at it. That's what math does. I hated math. My kids were all good at it, right? But the last issue is, or the second last issue is foreign policy. Because it is heartbreaking for me. Really heartbreaking for me. For the last 4 years, we have known ISIS. ISIS was in Iraq, driving Christians out of their homes, 20,000 from one community, killing Christians, and we decided to look away because we didn't want it interfering with what we were there, our mission there. And whenever you do the wrong thing, it doesn't end well. So there's a vacuum in Syria, and they go to Syria. We've known for at least a year and a half that they were beheading children, that they were crucifying children on crosses, that they were killing Shia and Sunni and Christians for a year and a half. Now, on my website, I just did a press conference because we went back and looked at the committees that my opponent sits on. And he sits on the Counterterrorism Committee and Foreign Affairs Committee, all the committees. And we went through all the transcripts to see if he knew this. Because as of 3 weeks ago, he's still making comments that this is just a civil war between Shia and Sunni, and it's a Kurd problem, and it's not a problem. And yet a year and a half ago, major generals were telling them, this is transnational. These guys are recruiting for anybody with a U.S. passport that would be able to come to America and kill us. This is the Levant. These people are going to establish a caliphate. It's on my website. All the links are there. Right where the transcripts cut in. Right where he found out all of this information. And then he's coming back to Buffalo saying, this is just a civil war. Nothing to see. Nope. Not going to get involved in that. And it wasn't true. It wasn't true. If we were told the truth, we maybe would have taken care of it when there were 2,000 of them on the Syrian border heading into western Iraq. And Iraq saying, they're in western Iraq, we need helicopters, and we need some ammo to fight them. It's just a civil war. We don't need to do anything like that. So, now, we did nothing because we have a commander-in-chief who doesn't want America to be strong and have a leadership role in anything that goes on in the world. So we wait till ISIS rampages through all these little towns, and they have to drive on roads we built, single file, that we could be plucking them out of the air because now they're driving our tanks and our MRAPs. Driving our stuff, shooting our weapons, and we wait until they're embedded everywhere, and there's 17,000 of them, and now we're going to send people into Baghdad. Wow. That's incredible foreign policy. And now, so I have one kid that was sitting in a little forward operating base in Helmand province, where, his best friend lost both his legs really high up. Another friend was killed by a sniper. Now my daughter's going to have to go because we didn't do the right thing. Because we have bad foreign policy people. Because we have people like my opponent that won't tell the truth about what's going on. Because the people sitting on that committee hearing this testimony should have been on the phone. Hey guy, you better make a decision. This is going to come back to bite us. And it's not going to be long before that happens. All of those committee people, dozens of them, should have been forcing the hand. Because now we've got 1,200 people there now, 1,200 people there, but they're not boots on the ground. I've got news for you. They all wear boots. They all wear boots. If there are Marines there, they're all riflemen too. We have boots on the ground there. Everybody knows it. We don't have enough. We need intel people there. We have to go help train them again because we didn't stay. We didn't keep anybody there. If we had intel there, we would have at least been able to give it to them. But they have people that are willing to fight. We should be supporting that. If you don't want your head cut off, you'll fight, because that's what they're doing. So it is absolutely. They have made statements that they will not stop till their flag is flying over our White House. Period. Period. We are not going to be able to ignore this. We had better engage, and we better do it fast. So, in the Levant is the island of Cyprus, Jordan, Palestine, Israel, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and southern Turkey. Just to let you know, that's a big swath of land. That's what they're after. Putin, he's not going to sit still either. So we're going to have all of this percolating for another 2 years. It's devastating for our country. It really is devastating for our country. And I know this isn't the typical campaign speech that you get, but I'm a reality junkie, because when you ignore reality, there's big trouble. And we cannot ignore reality. I raised all these great kids, and we're going to leave them a mess? I don't think so. We have to all engage and take care of it. We have a Republican leader, and every time the Republican National Committee calls me, I always say, are you recording this? Can you please record this? I want you to play this back for all your people there. You're not going to get a penny until you start acting like patriots. Start taking care of things. So we have a leader in Washington that decides 3 months before an election, he's going to sue the president. Really? Really? Where have you been 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year? Where have you been? Where have you been? You should have been pushing back on all of the overreach coming. And we have a constitution that nobody's paying attention to. It's all terrible. So now we're going to get to the most dangerous threat to America. This is my last one. And that is our debt. Our debt will crush us before ISIS has a chance to. The interest payment on our debt last year was $500 billion, and that's at 0.8%. The dirty little secret that nobody will mention, including Janet Yellen, is that if they raise interest rates to, let's say, 2%, our interest alone payment on our debt is over $1 trillion. Last year we borrowed $800 billion. We do not have enough people working in America anymore to even pay down our debt, which is why Obamacare is so devastating, which is why all of our jobs leaving America is so devastating, because we need people working to be paying taxes into the system in order to get out of the mess that we're in, period. So, let's see. They're also, despite what you hear about our unemployment rates and how great they are, 38% of eligible workers aren't working. We only have 62% engagement in the workforce. That's horrible. That's horrible news. And a lot of them that are engaged are working part-time, 30 hours a week. So we need our jobs back. We need corporate tax rates reduced. We need Obamacare dismantled. There were things that needed to be fixed. People were getting canceled when they got sick. That's disgraceful. We should have fixed that. People couldn't afford policies. That's terrible. We should have fixed that with some catastrophic policies. But to take it over and have the rollout be so horrific and have all of that information compromised, because anytime you have dozens of different vendors supplying code and nothing talks to each other. I called my son, software engineer, who has lots of software engineer friends. I said, okay, so there's like 5 million lines of code that need fixing. He said, they have spaghetti code now. It's not fixable, period. Not going to be fixable. He writes encrypted, at the time he was still with the NSA, he's writing very complicated code, and he said, the average code's 1,500 lines, up to 10,000. We had spaghetti code as the rollout for our healthcare plans. And everybody's plans got canceled. Our plan got canceled. My daughter had to drive from Vermont to Buffalo to get her blood drawn and then drive back, or it was going to cost us $500. They don't have to cover it anymore if it's not mandated. So they're just not going to. That's how they're going to survive. So we need to all stop acting like Democrats and Republicans, because the parties are killing us. That's what has happened in America. When I go up to someone, say, hi, I'm Kathy Wetmer, I'm running for Congress. What party? Doesn't matter, they're all corrupt. Let's talk about American issues. And we have great conversations. There are very few people that don't say, yeah, you're right. Because everybody knows it. Everybody knows in Washington they're on the take. The lobbyists have paid them off. They don't have values. Neither party stands for anything except getting reelected. And they will just say what you want them to hear. That's why we're not getting the truth. Who wants to hear that our debt's going to crush us? Who wants to hear that there are people that want to behead us? Who wants to hear any of that? But that's the truth. So if we keep electing the people who are telling us that other stuff, one day we're going to wake up, it just won't be here. The America that we grew up with, that we want for these young people, it just won't be here. So we need conversations to happen with people that you don't normally talk to. Your neighbors. Tripoli fell today. Does that concern anyone? Another country. That was pretty quick. Okay? Pretty quick. ISIS is hard to beat when you have one clip of bullets left. So, talk to your neighbors about that. Does this ISIS stuff concern you? Probably not. 45% of Americans don't even know about it because our newspapers aren't printing it, and most news stations aren't reporting it. I was at the VFW on Grand Island for a car show. And I was talking to a couple about my age, and I said, well, what's happening with Andrew Tomarisi is a disgrace for this country. They said, who's that? I said, who's that? You're going to be kidding me. He's a Marine. He's our president's Marine, sitting in a Mexican jail because he made a wrong turn. This woman was so upset that she had not heard his name. I said, it's been all over Fox News. Well, a lot of people don't watch Fox News. I said, well, whatever you're watching is holding that information from you. So I wrote his name down. I said, you go Google this. He's been in jail since March. And it would take one phone call. This is President Obama. The borders are shutting down this morning. No cars in or out until we have our Marine. They'd fly him there in a helicopter. Period. No checks, cars crossing over. We're forming a human chain so your smugglers can't get over either. It would be that fast. And that gentleman, I talked to his mom, he is hanging on. They're not even having another hearing until November. Think about that. 2 deployments, PTSD. So we have a house divided right now. And a house divided will fall. And we have got to build bridges. We have to talk as Americans to each other. And not get into any politics. You talk about all the issues that I just talked about. I didn't mention Republican or Democrat. These are American issues. And they're issues that we had better take care of. And we had better start sending people to Washington that are godly people that don't care if they get reelected over and over, but will absolutely go and represent the people that they're sent there to represent, and make sure that we're making decisions that are best for America, put America first. Thank you.
That's our Kathy. Let's hear it again.